men of God. Enoch was said to have walked with God. Enoch never died. Enoch never saw death. He was taken to heaven in a chariot. And Elijah never saw death. He was taken to heaven in a chariot. And so I believe that these two men will return to lead the second group of 144,000. And when they die and their bodies are laying in the streets of Jerusalem for 3.5 days, and this is where the world is celebrating their deaths at the end of the tribulation period, that when they rise and go back to heaven, that the second group at that time will also rise and go with them. The ones who are still alive. Most of them will be dead by then. But it's the second group that the Lord refers to about nations taking care of them during the tribulation period, feeding them, clothing them, keeping them safe. And so it's very interesting. But at this time, and something I'd written in my article, that the first group would also return with them, that wasn't, I have to take that out. That wasn't even right, because the first group at that time, they don't return with the second group. The second group is raptured with the two witnesses. They're all in heaven together, right? Because the Lord's getting ready to come back to earth. The first group is still in space. The first group has this ability to travel between earth and space. And I've seen how they do it. And it's something the Lord always brings back to me over and over and over again. So I know I wasn't just, I know it was Him that showed this to me years ago, because He just reinforces it over and over again, as crazy as it sounds. But there is some kind of a moon or a planet or something that the first group is going to have as a home base. It's not heaven directly. It's kind of in between earth and heaven. And it's going to be a home base for this elect group, this 144,000. We're going to go to heaven, and we're going to get all of our ranks and positions, because the first group is very rank-oriented. You have your generals and your warriors and your whole kind of military thing going. And this first group, they're gladiators and they're warriors. They do things, they're more, and this is why they're the Lord's security force. If you read in 14, they're with Him wherever He goes. It's part of their reward. And that's because they're warriors, they're gladiators, they're warriors. And He is going to use them to help the second group that's anointed here on earth to get around, to travel, whatever, maybe take the witnesses where they need to be. But I've seen how we're going to do it, and it's going to be like, we have these little, I don't even know what to call them. I've seen them, but I don't know how to describe them. But they're like pods, they're like airplanes. They're not like these round UFOs you see today, these alien things. They're not that at all. If anything, they would mimic like a one-seater airplane-type pod-looking craft. And this is what, they're fighter jets, they're fighter planes. And these they're like one-seater planes, and of course there's some that are a little bit bigger that can hold more people if you're transporting a group of people around. But certainly nothing like our airplanes today, and nothing like UFOs today, because they're not round or cigar-shaped or anything. They're like fighter jets, these little fighter planes. I don't know how else to describe them. But we each get one of those, and so we're going to be up there fighting. We're going to be able to transport people from one end of the earth to the other, get them where they need to be. If the Lord wants someone in particular taken somewhere or helped with something. And a lot of our biggest job, though, is fighting the forces of Satan. And we know that they're all over the universe. They're all over space. I mean, they inhabit Mars, they inhabit Venus, they inhabit all of our planets, all of the moons of these planets. In our universe alone, our solar system, there's just hundreds of moons and star systems and planets that these fallen angels inhabit. And so part of our job as the elect is going to war against all of them. We're going to go to war against all of them. We're not just going to go to war against Satan and his forces here on earth. We're also going to be annihilating them in space. And so, that just, every time I think about that, it just gives you a lot of peace in knowing that there is fun coming. And one of the things you see in the Bible codes in regards to this group is enjoyment. They're having so much fun. And just being together, the camaraderie of the first group of 144,000 being together, finally being with like-minded people who just want to kick Satan's butt and who love the Lord, that's going to be a lot of fun. And you always see that term enjoyment, camaraderie. because we have so much fun together. And this is a mixed group, you know. And one of the reasons why I put my website over at myspace.com to reach the various crowds I need to reach. That's the kids. Definitely am reaching them through the MySpace club or website. Because this 144,000, it's teenagers, it's women, it's men, it's kid, you know. I've seen, I don't know how young of a teenager we're gonna go, probably about 15, 16, 17. But these kids are gonna lead adults, folks. These kids are gonna outrank adults. A lot of them will. Because the Lord doesn't go by your age. He goes by your growth in Him. You know, every time when you grow in the Lord and you're able to do the things He asks and you become more and more of a go-to person for Him and you've built your faith strongly on Him and your foundation, He marks all of that. He knows each one of us. He knows the hairs on your head. And so how you are rewarded in the last days is determined and based on everything you're doing here on earth. Your rank later determines what kind of a warrior you are now. And so if you want to be a squadron leader later, then you better be doing everything He leads you to do now. And it's basically just doing what He asks you to do. You know, no matter how little, no matter how simple, just doing the little things that He asks you to do. Because He's never just going to jump and ask you to do something big if you can't do something little for Him. You know? So many people want that big assignment. Okay, Lord, tell me what to do. And, okay, I'll start a radio show, or I'll head to the West Coast and do Oregon or something. You know, He's not going to tell you, lead you to do anything big for Him if you can't do the little stuff. You know, if He tells you to read something or you know, spend time with Him, or no matter how small it is, He leads you to send the lady across the street $20 or buy someone's groceries, or just leads you to do things. Because it shows you're hearing His voice in your spirit and you're obeying Him, no matter how little it is. And then He kind of just leads you up to the big things, you know? And it's the heart of the warrior. It's the heart of the person. If He knows your heart, He knows how much you love Him and how trustworthy you are. And if you're one of His go-to people, and it's His go-to people that are going to lead this army of 144,000. Those are going to be His generals, His go-to people, the ones He can count on, the ones He can depend on. They're the ones who are going to be His generals. And so it's just a breath of fresh air, really, to be able to look ahead into the future and see some of the things that we're going to be able to do for Him, and just have this access of heaven and earth and in between. Because I've seen this place, I don't know what it is, it's a moon or a planet or something, and it's some place that we have to go to where we can park our pods or airplanes or whatever you want to call them. We just have like this huge Air Force base there. And you can go there to get off of Earth for a while or whatever, and then head back out. It's kind of like just a resting place or whatever. And I've seen it. I've been to it, and I just can't describe it. There's nothing there. I mean, there's really nothing there. There's a couple buildings that aren't really like our buildings are here on Earth. But I can always remember sitting and talking to this old man that was sitting on the ground all the time. Every time I'd land my thing and get out, I'd be talking to this guy and just very close to him.